So, I am not that pretty. I am not pretty to look at. I am not that appealing to the eyes. But does that matter? We're talking about tabletop role-playing games here. Do you care? Do you really care? Like, is this a thing for you? In old school Dungeons and Dragons, they have a thing called Hirelings. These are people the player characters can hire, non-player characters, that can join their party and go do a job with them, go on an adventure with them, so they can help out the player characters. The player characters will pay them, and then, they can go into the dungeon with them, or do whatever. In my opinion, a hireling should never be able to improve from where they start. If you meet them at level 1, that's it. They're going to be level 1 as they move forward. That's my opinion anyway. Because I think any focus, or too much focus, on the hirelings can take away from the focus on the player characters themselves and what they're expected to achieve on their own in the game. In my opinion, if you really want to hire a very skilled fighter, like a high-level fighter, like level 5 or something like a level 5 thief, it should cost you a pretty penny. It shouldn't be something you can do early in the game, and you should have to save up a good amount of money before you're in position to really hire people like that. At the start of the game, early on, at most, you should be able to hire people that are just able to do things. Like, not that skilled. Not people that you would use as fodder so easily. They would most likely just carry your gear and do a lot less fighting and things like that. That would still be expected of the player characters. And that's how it should be, in my opinion. There are some dungeon masters that won't like my next opinion. In my opinion, non-player characters are the responsibility of the dungeon master. Many dungeon masters will put it on a player and say you have to run the non-player character hireling. In my opinion, that's BS. The hireling is a non-player character, and that means that, the role play for that non-player character is the responsibility of the dungeon master. And a dungeon master should not be putting in more hirelings than they're willing to run in the game. And not put it on the players. Let the players play their characters. And if you're uncomfortable with running, hirelings, just make it that there's no one around to be hired. It's going to be pretty easy to solve that issue without needing to break the game in any way. And yeah, I really think the new school should borrow this concept of hiring non-player characters to help the characters out. Don't always rush through the game. Don't just do a campaign in 6 sessions. And there's another area of the game I want to talk about. How much role play per session compared to combat and everything else? How does that work? Why does it matter? Well, what about one-shots compared to campaigns? Where is the difference there? I will hear people try to measure out how much combat there should be compared to dialogue, compared to role play, how much you should be dealing with traps and compared to everything else, and how much you should be doing per session. Well, all that really breaks down when you start looking at the way we approach these games. Like one-shots, I can understand. If you're only doing the one session, then a fair amount of everything should be in there. That should matter. But in a campaign, if in the first session you do, say 4 hours with your group, it's a setup, it's a lead into what's happening. If most of that session, if not all of it really, is just interaction, roleplay, leading up to them leaving the place to go on the adventure, to possibly, start running into the encounters, there's nothing wrong with that. But it has to be something that is interesting and fun for the players. You don't always have to rush the combat. You don't always have to worry about measuring something out. It just don't do too much of one thing. If you notice, you're going through 2 sessions, and 99% of the time is interaction, dialogue, and roleplay, well, okay, now you're stepping over the line. You need to get some other aspects of the game in what you're doing. If not, you're really not running a game, right? You're turning it into something else. But do you have to worry per session how much you measure in? No, it's just how much overall, especially when it comes to a campaign. So you don't have to worry about you need to get a percentage of combat or something into the session. You just need to go with what feels right to you and the players. And if the players really want to rush your characters through an area and onto the adventure and into the encounters, you let them. But if they are taking their time, with the leniency you're giving here, and they go around the town, Let them take their time. Let players lead that so you know they're interested in what they're doing. And they're going to hint to you pretty powerfully when they're ready to move on. So hey, maybe you're in combat in that first session, maybe you're not. But don't listen to people that tell you need a certain amount of combat. It's not necessary. Feel it out. Mostly let your players lead. That's what they do in games. Let them lead where their characters are going to go and go with the flow. Combat will come, but if they stay away from combat, let that happen as long as they're enjoying their time. Anyway, for now, take care. You know what you can do? You can hit the like button. You can share the video. Oh, and there's another button you can press. That one that lets you subscribe to my channel for more content. Oh yeah, there's that bell thing. You can press that so you know when I've uploaded a new video right away.